Hola, Blender community. Welcome to Blender Today, Blender Tuesday live streaming from the Blender HQ. You can tell that it's official because of my t-shirt. How are you? How have you been? Did you know that Blender 4.4 goes beta tomorrow? Blender 4.5 goes alpha tomorrow. And we might see a new, well, we don't see a lot of exciting things today. We see, actually, there is one that is super exciting that didn't make the cut to the things that are new to this week. The thing is, we are at the end of what was the winter of quality, which for the northern hemisphere means it matches the season, and also means it's a good time to sit down and look at the bug reports, the documentation, everything that is sometimes postponed because of rushing, because of a project. So this time the project was to get Blender more stable, and it actually succeeded. It went pretty well, I would say. The dev talk thread about it, I can actually grab this window here and just start showing you things. Also, I because there's not that many exciting things today, one thing that I can show you towards the end of the show, if you stay, is the splash screen for Blender 4.4. Hey, that's a perk of having the Blender Today on a Tuesday, because it's the day before the switch to, it's usually on a Wednesday, on a Tuesday, Wednesday, when it happens, this switch between the version, so the stage of a version. So let's get to it. Nice to see people joining there with tea. Harry Blends, nice to see you, and with coffee. I'm here with the mate myself. So what are we looking at? Okay, so Winter of Quality. This is a blog post, but not a blog. There will be a blog post in the developer blog. This is a post by Thomas with some numbers at the moment of the normal severity reports. Modeling got 45 less than what it had. Notes and physics 153 less. Nice, well done, modules. Notes and physics module. That notes. The notes and physics include Compositor. No, that's VFX and video, but it's also notes. So it's confusing. VFX and video got 183 only remaining normal severity reports, so 25 less. The lead of this group is user interface with 173 reports less of normal severity less than before. Also, I read that the high priority bugs so far it's like 20. On in its 20s, which is pretty good, I would say, for a number of high priority bugs. So yeah, that's not bad at all. Let's we're streaming live, by the way, so let me get this to the side and point you to the thread where you can leave some questions if you want on Blender Community. I just made the thread Winter of Quality, and we're gonna talk about that. Well, the questions, I'll try to answer the questions a little bit later. All right. Sivren says, do you know why? Hi, Sivren, by the way, from the animation and rigging module. Do you know why not all modules are mentioned there? Lazy module owners. I have a feeling, or maybe numbers that are not so, or maybe the numbers were not so much up there to be worth mention, but actually it should be a good reason to mention it. I think. So that is it. I don't think I have much else to mention other than remember to check the studio.blender.org website, because there are articles that the artists are posting. Some of them are free for everyone, some of them are paid access, but that supports Blender as well. So just a reminder. And also that if you're a Godot user or interaction mode, you should be excited about Project Dog Walk. I got to play it yesterday on I think it was the Asus one, like a Steam Deck from Asus. What's the name? Ally? Anyway, you should check it out. And one thing that is exciting is the custom brush stroke styles. It's a style pack for the brush stroke add-on, which is for free, available on the extensions platform. Actually, from within Blender, you can try it yourself. And the way they made the add-on is that you can extend it with other like a brush pack on Photoshop. Well, the same or Krita or GIMP, but in this case in the brushstrokes add-on. Super nice. So check out those. They are paid actually. I have a friend there in the studio, so I have an account. So but yeah, they are paid. Although they are CC BY. So if someone downloads that for you, you can ask them, hey, can I have the files? And it would be totally fine because it is they're open source. They are CC BY, Creative Commons. As long as you use them and you give them credit, it's all good. All right. And you should thank your friend for subscribing to the studio and supporting this nice building we are here in. I have a new plant, by the way. I stole this from Clement's office. All right, let's see what is new as of Blender in the last 2 weeks. If you missed the last episode, I went through everything that was new on the release notes of Blender 4.4 up to that date, up to the 21st of January. So let's see what's new. Chan. All right. Remember this list of improvements. I'm not gonna cover everything because some of them are like, I haven't even filtered this list. I was filtering, but then after filtering the cleanups, refactors, and fixes, I would be left out with like very little things. So let's actually go through them. I'm not gonna go through all of them, but just so you see the sheer amount of things the developers are working on. So for example, here we start with, there's 564 commits since last time we talked. Some of them are fixes and some of them are cleanups, like 117. There's also a bunch of refactors. So let's see. 3D view. This is a small thing. It's a fix that you may have noticed, but it's very, very subtle. You know the smooth view when you're in the 3D viewport and you move, for example, if you move to the camera and you go back, this transition in Blender is called smooth view. You can actually tweak the speed of the smooth view in the preferences. The thing is that by default it's like 200 milliseconds, very short. You can have it more, if you want, or more snappy. Must be in the viewport, and there is like a smooth. I wish we had search in here, but well, it must be somewhere here. Smooth transition, navigation, smooth view. There you go, 200. And this is in milliseconds. Actually, we could add the time unit to this. So if you make it 1000 milliseconds, this is metric seconds, by the way, for those keeping. There you go. So you see, it's 1 second. The thing is, this transition sometimes gets on the way of other operations, and when you're doing something else, like whatever, moving away, you don't want to wait for that transition, right? You want it to be immediate. And there were a few operations that were waiting for the smooth view to finish before you could operate on it. So it's very subtle. You may have not noticed, like a bit jittery, and that has been fixed by the one and only Campbell Barton. So super nice. Again, those things that, how do you explain it? It's just, you need to see it in action. Then this is a cleanup. I already checked from Philip. Cleaning up the code. This is Sergey just re-mentioned something in the documentation. This is for the Python API documentation that, for example, that an operation not only updates all the objects, but also updates all the view layers immediately. That is actually from a bug report that was complaining that it was slow. But yeah, it's because the operation didn't mention that it's actually affecting all the view layers. So nice documentation. Again, also API documentation by Bastian. This is okay, no, this is an addition to the API, actually, the Python API, that similar to BPY data user map, there is also now file path map as well. So for all your Pythoners there. Let's switch to Animation. Animation, there is a bunch of changes. Some of them are fixes. Some of them are wrapping up the last remaining tweaks to the one of the big features in 4.4, even though it's not very feature rich. 4.4 is more about stability. It has one of few features that are very rich, like one of the biggest ones is the slotted actions, where you can, I mentioned it last week, where you can have multiple, what you have actions now, but in one action, basically, sort of speak multiple characters in one action. So it's easy to share, easy to see, easy to edit, everything is easier. And in the future, animation layers, even better. So, so let's see. For example, there is a bunch of changes in the copy global transform. One of them is to use the slotted actions correctly. So it's a fix. The operators of the copy global transform add-on now use slotted actions, and many of them that are fixing the change to camera, warnings, and so on. Then adding the action plus slot selector now has been added to the compositing in node tree, so you can choose in the node tree. So you can you also mix then these node slots, so you can have an action that contains the node tree for compositing and for shading and a character and a scene if you want. I think you can, right? There's no action types that you can mix everything with everything. That's super nice. That also has been added for masks, movie clips, actions, and pretty much everywhere. Also a refactor that Siren mentioned today. This is just refactoring the code, but there is a new a feature. It's actually a feature fix that fixes copy paste for real. This commit didn't make it today because it was done after the cutting point, which is at noon. I cut it at noon, the commits, otherwise I don't have time to go through them. So then compatibility, library overrides. You can create pose assets to different libraries. This is a new feature, similar to how brush assets are created and managed. This PR allows to export pose assets into a different library. So basically, pushing a pose asset into a library, same way as you say brush assets. So right now the only assets that are missing pushing. But with push, I mean save to a library. Right now, in the asset browser, well, the asset system in Blender, you can only, if you have a material that you make into an asset, you can only save that into a file and then use that file as a library. You cannot, from somewhere else, write to a library yet. But you can, with brush assets, save to another library. And now with pose libraries, you can save to another library. So we're just missing the word part, which is every other asset in existence, basically. Materials, collections, world, so on. All right. Let's see. Create assets. We have Sivern in the chat, by the way. So yes, you can totally do that, referring to the mixing of actions. So a compositor node tree plus a material node tree in the same action. That's awesome. So cool. And then Andres Stephens from B4Artist was asking if will the FBX import also auto-assign slots eventually? And it should, yes. Actually on save, I think there is some, no, on load, there is some versioning that auto-assigns everything and it should work. But it's pretty cool to see that you get a Q&A basically here because we have one of the developers present. So that's nice. But yeah, super nice. Create an asset. You can, available in the 3D viewport, in the pose menu, create pose asset. Oh wow, from the 3D view or not? Where is the pull request? So operator, create, how do you get a green text in project.blender.org? Span, title, color light green. I didn't know you could color. Oh, I don't know if I wanted to know this power. Now, oh, that's so cool. I didn't know you could add styling to projects of Blender to GT. Operators, create asset. Available in the 3D viewport, you can create a pose asset. The button in the dope sheet will now call this operator as well, so they share it. Clicking either of those will open a pop-up. Choose the name of the asset, which library will go into, and the catalog also. And then clicking create will create a pose asset on the disk in the given library. This is like Christmas in February. One in February already. It's possible to create files into an outside library or add it in the current file. The later option does a lot less, since it basically just creates the action and tags it as an asset. But still, that's more than enough. If no asset shelf and asset browser are visible in Blender, the asset shelf will be shown on the 3D viewport from which the operator was called. Nice. Deleting an existing... Can you delete from another library? Right-click on a pose and hit delete pose asset works in the shelf and in the asset library. Doing so will pop up a confirmation dialog. If confirming, the asset is gone forever. Ooh. No undo? Deleting a local asset is... No, because it's on a different file. That's the tricky thing about pushing or saving into libraries. Yep. Right-click on a... Yeah, it will delete it. It will delete it. Deleting a local asset is basically the same as creating the asset. Okay, that's fine. And that probably has undo. This is a bit confusing because you get two options basically to do the same things, but delete works in other cases as well. Wow. That's cool. I just want to see the option in the... So you have a pose mode, and in pose you can create pose asset. Interesting. And this makes the... Hey, developers, when you open a dialog, it should have 3 dots at the end of the label. So create pose asset ... because it means it communicates that it doesn't execute it immediately. We'd open a confirmation dialog. You can see that we do that in other places as well, like select pattern ... That's a tiny thing. All right, next. That's amazing. That's huge. That's another big feature in 4.4. So reordering slot in the action editor channel. Nice. Is there a no video, no render? Videos are so much fun, please. Nice. Wow. Awesome. All right. BLI. What is BLI? BLI is like it's libraries. No, libraries like functions that Blender has internally that can be used for multiple purpose. Like this doesn't affect you directly, but the cool thing is that when there are when they make improvements to those libraries, like I don't know, find the index of a range of, and they improve that, then everywhere in Blender that uses that function, it will get improved. So it's super nice when they do this kind of improvements, or they improve the libraries overall. Cool. We also have Bart around, and Christoph, all the developers in their chat. Nice to see you all, guys. And Bart is helping out to potentially in the future find a new home for right-click select. So it's still in the very early works, but at least there is hope that at some point before 2026 it could happen. No promises, no promises. BLO, all right, what is it? Generate human readable blend file for debugging purposes. No, this is not like ASCII blend file yet. This is just for developers. It's still very technical, but it will help developers to they have to compile Blender with this flag, and it will help them to write a blend file in some way more readable. So yeah, if you also got excited about ASCII, no, it's not there yet, but it's diffable, I guess. But yeah, there are some examples of how it looks, and it's all pretty sorry for people watching this in a dark room, but yeah. So it is sort of readable for some things, but it's for developer only. Cool. Next, build. Bunch of changes to build. Upgrade open image denoise to 2.3.2. Nice. Minor improvements. What are the minor improvements? There's, well, we were in 2.3.0 and it's a point release fix. Okay, I see. But hey, the copyright has been updated from 2020 to 2025. All right. Let's see. More build stuff. So remove macOS mold, libraries, upgrade Embree from 4.3.2 to 4.3.3. So another small update. So updating a bunch of libraries. Actually, the reference shows the library changes that are expected for 4.4. I don't know if you follow these things, you're interested in libraries stuff in Blender. Actually, every library has a version, of course, that we track, and Blender tries to keep up, so aligned to the VFX platform specification, which many studios in the industry use this as a reference. So in 2025, Blender will try to align with these libraries here in this column for OpenEXR, Python, Alembic, OpenVDB, and so on. And there is always a task with this similar name, library changes for Blender version, that you can track to see what's changing in case your production, your studio keeps an eye on these things. Let's continue. More libraries, bump render tests. Yeah, render tests. Did you know that Blender has a system for render tests? Like there is a repository with a bunch of blend files and automated, basically open Blender, run with whatever setup, compare a render. They have a diff system. They basically have a render with the old version of Blender with the new commit, compare, and if the difference is more than a certain threshold, alarms go off and we have to leave the building because it's an emergency. And the developers go and try to see what happens. But all that infrastructure, it's amazing to have that. And it's not usually seen. When you see here, it's like, you know, what's Blender doing with the 200,000 euros a month? Well, partially some of that. Thank you to the 7,222 individuals that contribute. All right, cleanup, clang tidy. Okay, so this list is the part of the big things that were happening on the winter of quality. Quality also means cleaning up, renaming things, and removing unused variables. Renaming things for consistency, right? Going through parts, well, fixing typos. But yeah, going through parts of Blender that were giving warnings, spelling errors, unifying concepts, code styling, compositor. So basically making Blender more friendly for the current developers and for new developers, or putting it, you know, up to date. For example, we don't use OpenGL or anymore when referring to something that has to do with graphics, right? We use GPU. Now the module is called GPU because eventually you will be able to choose between OpenGL, Vulkan, or actually just whatever Vulkan or whatever comes next after Vulkan, or Metal for Mac OS. So now the module, well, since many versions already, is called GPU. All right. So Severin is leaving because gotta go buy some cat toys before the pet store closes. Priorities. Nice. Let's see. So next. Compositor. Support open image denoiser on ARM. Wait, something is missing. Compositor. Support open image denoiser on ARM. That's pretty big. This patch extends the check for open image device to include ARM on Windows and Linux. We don't have Linux ARM builds yet, right? I haven't heard, no ARM for Linux, only for Windows and Mac OS, which is Apple Silicon. That's good to see. Identical and copied from cycles. Open image, use Open Color IO luminance for color to float conversion. This patch uses Open Color IO luminance, that's another library, for implicit conversion. This is done to match other node systems and because luminance is much better default than the average formula used before. Neat. Delay transformation until realization. I guess this is to prevent like conflicts or stuttering. This patch delays the applying transformations until realization happens on another domain. We're talking compositor here. For implications, transform will now be higher quality and more precise. Yes, because it waits for everything to happen until it needs to. Repetition and other boundary extension methods will now be possible. Yes, ooh, repetition. Sounds like a for loop. Downsampling, then upsampling will no longer produce pixelated results. Isn't that nice? Realization might happen multiple times with identical results in some cases, but that's fine. That's well already downsampling and upsampling no longer producing pixelated results. Maybe if that's what you were actually after, just keep an eye on your files. If you were trying to use a compositor for some fancy, I don't know, pixel art, like trying to produce artifacts with the compositor, maybe have a look at your how to bring that back. Warnings, optimizations, derived resources optimizations. Implement, okay, no. Allow pixel operations to operate on single values. Allow repeating in the translate node. This patch changes how the wrap option in the translate node works. It now repeats infinitely when realized and not just in the own domain. Essentially how it used to work prior to 4.2, so we are reverting that change. We also rename wrap to repeat for clarity. Okay, so that's a big change, right? The whole setting has been renamed. This is part of an ongoing project to allow the user to control how boundaries and empty areas are filled after transformations. Wow. Well, in a way, it is more in line with other parts of Blender, right? We have repeat for the clipping of an image, right? It's not wrap, but repeat. I want to see that in action. Let's see it. So if I add a translate, not transform, translate, now there should be, I don't like it when the name doesn't fit in the label, in the width. So repeat none, x-axis, both axes. So this is the repeat. Okay, it could be maybe called no repeat, so that way you can collapse it and then you know. It's just that with this label and the column here doesn't. I don't know if we usually do this kind of things. It's a small thing. I'm nitpicking. Come on, thank you for the feature. Avoid redundant output computations. Oof, I like that. Where? Optimizations. This patch allows the compositor context to specify exactly which outputs it needs, selecting from composite, viewer, file output, and previous. Previously, the compositor fully executed if any of those were needed. So we executed everything, even if just one of them was needed. Okay, that should speed up things quite a bit. For the viewport, it requests the compositor and the viewer with no previous or file outputs. Good. Oh wow, so previously if I had the viewport compositor and a bunch of file outputs, it would calculate those and the previews. Oh wow, this will really speed up things. Nice, good to see. Good to see. Thank you, Omar. And for the render pipeline, it will request the compositor and the file output with node viewer or previews. Okay. For the interactive compositor, it requests viewer if the backdrop is visible, or an image editor with the viewer image is visible. Awesome. That's super nice to see. But you know what else? It's great to see. Usability improvements, quality of life. This one is another of the big features of 4.4. Behold, you can now assign shortcuts to viewer nodes. And this deserves a little applause. Is it? Okay. Enough. But have you ever found, or basically not found, have you ever lost a viewer? I do it all the time. You have viewers all over the place. I'm talking about the compositor here. The viewer usually connects to where Control Shift click in one side of in one node, and then you have to go all the way to another side, to another node to see the results. Well, not anymore. Now you can actually assign a shortcut. So you basically select a node and do Control 1, Control 2, you know, in the same way that in Age of Empires or Command and Conquer, you assign things to a group, to a number, like you group them into a team. Well, same way with this. So pretty welcome addition. Let's try to squeeze it in here in the screen so you can see it. So this is how it basically works. You select a node, Control 1, Control 2, and now the viewer will have a number on the top right corner that will tell you which number you can press. So if you want to activate one or the other viewer, you can just do 1, 2, 3 with the keys on the top of on the top row, not the ones in the numpad, the ones in the top row. So if you have one of those extremely tiny keyboards, you may want to consider maybe having one that has the, what is it, the 65, the 75%, the one that has the top bar. This is kind of awesome, super cool. This feature was actually made by Habib, one of the developers that moved, compositor developers that is working full-time for Blender since January and moved to Amsterdam, which shows commitment, and is now putting out these awesome features, and is very interested in also this side of things, also not just the hardcore compositor under the hood stuff, but also usability, which is super nice to see. And it's possible thanks to the development fund. So thanks again, everyone, for making this happen, and thanks to the developers. You know that it takes a lot of guts and, you know, dedication to move from your country to another country to work on a project. Super nice. Okay, not, of course, working from home is still super valid, especially if you have a family, but it's so nice to have more people here in the team. Awesome, cool. Amazing feature, one of my favorites so far already in 4.4. Let's see what else is new in the rest of Blender. Let's go with Core. Core always compress the quit blend file. I didn't know the quit.blend file was not compressed. That was probably done in the past because at some point compressing in Blender was very taxing, was very expensive. Not anymore. So now the blend file, the quit.blend, should be light. Add functions to print DNA structs with older members. Okay, that's pretty under the hood. Curves. Let's see. In curves, make material index attribute built in on curves geometry. Okay, so this makes the material index attribute built into curves geometry, which means that it's built in on curves and on grease pencil, while only grease pencil can use it so far during rendering. We already depend on them on curves when converting. Nice, more built-in attributes. Material index. Can I already see it in action? So if I add a, well, is this already using Grease Pencil 3, of course. So if I go to the geometry nodes I should see some color spline lines, dots, and then we have material index here. Nice. Built in. And on curves as well. Let's see. Speaking of Grease Pencil, we have one of the developers here. If you want to ask questions, Folk is in the chat. Nice. Let's see. Oh, Folk was working on a really nice feature as well for geometry nodes to expose the Boolean of if you have geometry nodes and you have a setting that toggles like a panel. Like if you have one of these panels and that has a checkbox, instead of having the checkbox inside of the panel, it will, if the right conditions are set, it could be placed on the header of the panel, which will make the UI of geometry nodes modifiers a lot cleaner. So looking forward to that one. It's not gonna be on 4.4, but yeah, super nice. Let's see. Optimize, edit, sculpt, mode index, buffer creation. All right, Hans doing optimization. So this is sculpt mode index buffer creation. This simple change makes this part of the GPU data building almost 5 times faster. So from 1 millisecond, 1.23 millisecond to 0.25 for curves with 80,000 points. That's not nothing. That's super nice. Thanks, Hans. And another optimization by Laurines Duburas on duplicate curves, duplicate points. Let's see the numbers. Full copy. In main, what used to take 3,300 milliseconds or 3 seconds, mask slices went to 2270 milliseconds, and slices and copy by range 1614. Can we see a place with a table that works? Oh, there you go. This is a table, okay. With different mask creation predicates, yeah, a lot faster, especially here. Index range, what used to take 2 seconds is 100 milliseconds or less even for this other operation. Super nice. Thank you, Laurinas Duburas. Optimizations. It would be so nice to have winter of quality, spring of optimizations. Just a whole release, 4.5, even an LTS release, just optimizations. Let's see. What is there? Some drama in the chat going on? Cycles. Wait. Cycles. Although there are, okay, so open shading language uniform EDF closer for better Material X compatibility. And actually there's many comments around that. Orenire diffuse BSDF compatibility for Material X. Cycles Shim BSDF compatibility for Material X. Open shading language subsurface compatibility for Material X. So Blender is catering to the industry. No, I'm kidding. That's something I think I read that they were discussing here. It seems that Blender in the past years is catering more to the industry, but also they want to rely less on their donations. I don't know where that discussion comes from. But I don't think Blender is catering to the industry. I think the industry is learning about Blender, and they are investing in Blender itself, and they even come up with the changes. Like Alex Fuller, he's not working for Blender, he's working for something else probably. And then these things get implemented the same way that, I don't know, all the metal stuff, all the open shading language or the open image denoise stuff. It's all things that come from the industry. Refactor cycles, support ray depth attributes for optics, open shading language. Nice. Bump minimum version of open shading language as well. Nice. Cycles test. Enable principal BSDF OSL test. There is even test for open for OSL now. Which is the version? 113.4 required. Nice. Dependencies. Update GLU, mess up trim URIs. Documentation. That's another part of the winter of quality. Eevee. Eevee has one change. Use open color IO for luminance. Color to grayscale conversions should take into account the color space. Yes, we all agree that even it's grayscale, still have color space. Gray space. Note the RGB to black and white node implementation is used for implicit conversions, so that is covered as well. No change with the default configuration. That's nice. This matches cycles and the compositor. Hey, this is where Blender should go in my in my point of view. Blender should work better with Blender. Eevee with cycles. Eevee should support pointiness. Cycles should have nice pointiness. The compositor should work with the sequencer. The sequencer should include compositor. You know, all in one. Eevee should support fisheye cameras and ortho cameras, same way that cycles does. You know, Blender should work with Blender more. That's my point of view. Blender first, industry later. No, second, then later. Unless the industry wants to do on their own patches. Well, I like something that Ton said to me many years ago, and I sticked around. Maybe it was like 20 years ago. I don't know. 15 years ago. No, I only been working at Blender for 16, so it's probably less. 15 years ago. They said Blender is for Blender users, and I love that. So good, so good. I know that's probably something that Blender, other non-Blender users don't like it, or new people that are new to Blender maybe don't like it. Anyways, extensions. What's new in the extension section? So add an error when building an add-on without an init file. Nice. Print errors. Yay. That's also quality of life. Exclude development files from installation. That's also quality of life. And then this is a tiny feature that to me is very convenient. So that's why I made it. I saw this idea proposed on right-click select, and I went ahead and did it, and I made it myself here, which is very simple. If you look at the code, it's really simple. But hey, have you ever been developing an add-on or just curious about an add-on and want to see the files, want to find those files? Okay, now if you have developer extras enabled, you will find an icon, icon next to the file path that will open the file browser of your operating system. So it works on Linux, Windows, everywhere. It just opens the system browser. So small thing, quality of life. Hopefully this will speed up things. And I wanted, I don't think it's gonna make it to 4.4, but I wanted to do this for the preferences too. On Linux, it's so easy to find your preferences. You just go to Home, User, Point, Blender, Config, Blender. That's it. On Windows, it's a mess. It's like a roaming folder somewhere. On macOS, it's not easier either because they hide those folders for you to not mess with the files. But sometimes Blender users, we want to mess with the files. So it would be nice to have that more exposed. So yeah, that's now part of 4.4. Next, fixes. Look at the amount of fixes. Grace Pencil, cycles, USD. It's like a wall, a literal wall of fixes. Fixes all over the place. Cycles, USD, Draw Manager, Chinese language translations, overlays, all the things that even these don't have a bug report. These are just fixes. Some of them, most of them have bug reports, so thanks to everyone actually reporting bugs, because this is how you get things done. But remember that tomorrow Blender goes beta, 4.4 goes beta, so it's even more of a reason for you to report bugs. Please, let's have a let's not have a 4.4.1. That would be an achievement of the century. Do not have a 0.1 release, you know. Just do it fine from day one. And that's thanks to bug fixes. All right, geometry nodes. There are 3 things. Well, one of them is similar to what we were mentioning before about OpenColor IO. Now that is being used for luminance. So all the color to grayscale conversions should also take into account color space. So that is unified across all Blender. Then output proper face corner normals. Hey, nice. So previously, when evaluated on the face corner domain, the normal input node should just return the face normals, as if the mesh was completely flat shaded. It's probably not what you want. This ignores face and edge smoothness and custom face corner normals. In the past couple years, the expected behavior for accessing normals has become much clearer, and this behavior is clearly a mistake in retrospect. Holy, going back to fixing. Nice. This commit exposes the same face corner normals used everywhere else in Blender when the node is evaluated on the corner domain. The old behavior is accessible with a node property in the sidebar where there is versioning, so all files have the property set and get the same results. This is super nice to see. Is there a picture for the sidebar? No. Can we look at the code? And sometimes you can look at the code and find where, like if you find the Python file, you can find more or less where in the UI is. Why is everything loading like I'm on dial up here? Okay, the window is maybe too small for this. So no, there's no Python file. Okay, so it's probably in the node itself. All right, so let's go back to closing everything, closing some tabs. Reduce memory usage in edge angle node. Hey, nice. Performance improvement for memory usage of the edge angle node. Internet is really slow. It's a big building. There are a lot of people here. So screw what I said about bringing more developers to the studio. They're making internet slow. Use 2 integers per edge instead of 3 by encoding the manifold status of edges with negative face indices. Okay, less memory usage. Yay, good. Next. Time for the grease pencil. Don't show material preview as disabled. Another quality of life, tiny little thing by Folk. But when you see it, you will, when this website loads eventually, maybe it's projects.blender.org that is slow, not the stream. Maybe. Bart is there. Maybe you can monitor what it's made. Now maybe it's just project.blender.org that is very slow, but it's taking time to load the sidebar and the rest of the page. Although there is a new version of glTF with new cool things. Also thanks to Bart for that, keeping our glTF fresh. Anyway, so the previous way of drawing the disabled item or the locked out items actually in the grease pencil list of materials would be the entire row would be grayed out. Now the icon stays full color because sometimes you need to see the color, right? You need to see the actual, you want to see full color, even though the item is locked. So now the name will be locked, whereas the rest would be not grayed out, because as you can see, actually these buttons are still accessible. I mean, the layer is locked. Doesn't mean that the entire row of icons doesn't work. So now it does. Quality of life improvement. Let's continue. Sculpt mode auto masking option. All right, this is bringing back a feature, right? I think this already existed before. Allow show all to reveal layer groups. Nice. Make layer locking operator also affect layer groups. Jane Nylander is on a roll here. 3 changes. Make hide others layer operator take layer groups into account. Neat. And the sculpt mode auto masking implements the auto masking option in sculpt mode. Stroke only affects strokes that are initially under the cursor. Layer only affect the layer in the same as the initial strokes under the cursor. Material only affects the strokes with the same material as the initial strokes. Active layer only in the active layer. Active material only active material. Super nice. This is one of the remaining tasks, I think, from Grease Pencil 2. Awesome. And thank you, Jane, for working on that. Sorry. Next. Oh, internationalization. Bunch of updates there as well, thanks to our translators team working hard on getting Blender to more people around the world. You know, remember that you can also help, and that Blender has its own translate.blender.org for those not familiar with it. It's amazing. There is a website where you can actually see the status of the translations for the Blender UI, for the Blender manual. And in terms of the UI, it's being translated fully to Spanish, fully to English, Catalan, also fullish now, full, Georgian, and I think one more, Slovak, and Vietnamese is right there, 97%, but not bad. Let's continue. Knife. Oh, that's a whole section on its own. Knife. Improve precision at knife line intersections by Germano. There were also some refactors on this. There is no pull request. Straight to commit. No check by the build bot. No before after. It's just better. We need to trust the process. That's the way. Thanks. License header changes, make file. Let's make this bigger for you and for me. License headers, make file, improvement mesh. Avoid computing vertex normals for corner normals. Another optimization by Hans, which improves playback around 15%. That is pretty cool. In a test file with a character with custom normals, this change improved the playback from 41 FPS to 47 FPS. The impact will usually be lower than that, but it should be noticeable in other scenes too. Yeah, I think custom normals are really common in many workflows. So super nice. Thanks, Hans. Time for some metal. Jorun Bakker and Clement Foucault been working on adding support for force workaround, repeat byte sequence, native tile inputs, and coordinate rejections of atomic functions. A lot of GPU stuff. Cool. Modifier. Add disable assertions to valid modifiers input output. Under the hood. Nodes. Oh, okay, this is super nice. Okay, this deserves a whole section. Nodes. Jack Luke added this awesome quality of life improvement that you need to see it to. But I know, I think I've shown this before. Didn't I show it last week? But it wasn't. Why is it again here? Anyway, so now the UI will be grayed out if the socket is not being used. So you basically add a value, and if that value doesn't match, then it will be grayed out, which is awesome because you can see at a glance what matters, with what's working or not, even in the modifier UI, which is fantastic. So thank you, Jack. I wish we had Jack in the UI module. He's so good at this, you know, usability improvements, and you can tell by also looking at his add-on animation nodes, because you could see a lot of these usability improvements. So good. Awesome. Support input socket usage inferencing for mix and mix shader node. What is that? This builds on top of to create output and use inputs of the mix and mix shader node. Ah, nice. So if that's so cool. All right. So do you see this image? Can you tell what's going on here? Well, Blender by default, if you don't use anything and the factor is, if you don't change the value and the factor is 0, it will use the first input, the A input. If you move the factor to 1, it will use the B input. Now those also get grayed out. So cool. And the same here for mix. And if the value is -1, it means that it will use this. So nice. Oh, and this is the difference. Okay, this is not grayed out because the factor is not clamped. Here it is clamped, which means it will assign -1, which means it will be the A input. So awesome. I'll give it an applause. A short one. Thank you, Jack. That's so cool. Where else can we have this kind of hints of things that work and don't work? Nodes that do not work on the current or the active render engine. Eevee nodes that don't work on cycles, gray them out. However, the problem is because in the shader node, yeah, I know, it's not so straightforward, because in shader you can have the output for Eevee for cycles, so this actually works on both. So you can't really just rely on the engine here. If you have cycles, I have cycles disabled here. So if I have cycles and then I have an Eevee node, yeah, I can't grade out. Or should I grade out? If this was set to Eevee, so the output was set to Eevee, then okay, maybe then this shouldn't be grayed out. You see, that's the issue. That's the issue. Sometimes the solution is like right there, but if you think of the corner cases, that's when things get annoying, and then you drop the feature altogether, and then you don't work on it anymore. All right, let's continue. Overlay, fade inactive geometry filter on object being interactable by Sean Kim. Let's see a picture, please. Oh, there's no picture. Okay, this is a fix actually. It's a bug report. Objects with the same stored mode are not faded. Okay, so this is a bug report. Prior to this commit, the fade inactive geometry overlay would inspect the active object and compare each of the object's mode and hide them if they didn't share the same mode. But it was incorrect if you use the lock objects mode setting off. Okay, so it's a fix actually. Python documentation, refactor, a whole bunch of refactors. Also big part of the winter of quality. Refactoring things, writing things for logic, for cleaner code, for using C++ instead of old C code, whatever, you name it. Let's see. Release tools. Oh, nice. This is very internal use, but it's a script to list the amount of bug fixes, or the list of the bug fixes from the last release, which is something I would like to start showing more often on the release notes. So when you download Blender, you can see how many fixes. WordPress does it, and Godot did it on the release. You can see like, oh, this release contains 1,000 bug fixes. And it's important to show that because that's where most of the time, development time goes. And money. Then a bunch of reverts. When you're not sure about things, you revert them. Sculpt. Avoid adding sculpt mask attributes in certain cases. Optimization and simplify vector displacement brush calculation. Is this an optimization? Small performance improvement, yes. Tests, bunch of tests by Aras, Ilya, Sean, Alaska, Lucas, and Bastian, and many others. Tools. Blend file and blend to JSON. Yeah, there is a tool. Support for compressed files. Did you know that there is a tool called blend to JSON, which kind of gives you a JSON format of the blend file, which is not one-to-one. It's not for production, but it gives you at least a hint, and you can use it for some things. But not like switching your entire production to use something else. Transform. Use consistent bone visibility checking. This is internal use. UI. And then what else do we have? That it's because the list of UI is quite large. Let's skip UI for now because it's so many things there. But let's go with USD. There are a few changes. I'm gonna go back to UI, but it's just wanna save that towards the end. And remember, we have the splash screen of 4.4 if you stick till the end. Test coverage for USD. Sync graph instancing export. Refactor the USD instancing export to support instanceable references. That's also kind of big. USD. With this change, it's now possible to instance object hierarchies and geometry types other than meshes. No longer marking mesh primitives as instances in this function. That is pretty nice. Thank you, Michael Kowalski. Awesome. Add additional tests for tests. Okay, tests. Nice. UV editor. Yes, there is a new change in the UV editor. You can now use Command or Control-C, Control-V, or Command-C, Command-V on macOS to copy-paste the UVs in the UV editor. Yes, we have a situation here because Control-C and Control-V could be used for the for copying images, right? Because at the end of the day, the UV editor has an image in the background. So yes, we have to choose because you could do it depending on the active mode, but it's trickier. However, there is copy-paste of images everywhere except Linux X11, I think. But Linux, Wayland, Windows, and macOS, you can copy-paste an image from the from here. I think we should call it maybe copy image, paste image, because that way it will show up in the copy image. Yeah, so that way it will, maybe we can make it, we can rename the operator to copy image, and then rename this to just copy, because you are in the menu, in the image menu, right? Image. No Spaghetti says, I think you can in Linux. Really? Does it work already on, I'm talking X11, not Wayland. I know that in Wayland it works, I think. Next. Unbreak build with international off. International is the translation, the translation's off. Video sequence editor. What's new here? Python, deprecate sequence properties. Okay, that is for 4.5. This right now they are deprecated. In 4.5 they will be removed. No, in 5.0 they will be removed. All the references to sequence. Add keymap item for sequencer slide with control. What is that? Keymap item? Allow the user to select strips at the same time while dragging so that they don't have to re-click through the handles. Hey, nice. Quality of life. Move snap toggle to global sequencer common. This allows users to keybind to be invoked from either the sequencer or the preview view types. Now that snapping is also possible in the preview. That's so cool. Nice. Thank you, John. Vulkan device command builder. This implements a new threading model for building render graphs based on tests performed last month. And this week, I think it's Vulkanize, right? Vulkanize event, GPU 2025. Yes, next week. And I think there will be Blender presence there, I believe. So if you are in the area of Sunnyvale, California, well, it's actually this week, yeah. Windows, minor CLang changes. Okay, extern. Update QuadriFlow patch to account for local changes. QuadriFlow. It's the same version of QuadriFlow. It's just updating it to local changes. glTF. There is a few things in glTF. Collection exporter. Set collection custom properties as glTF scene extras. As we are exporting collections only, it makes sense that the collection custom properties can be exported as glTF scene extras, as the scene includes only objects from the collection. There is a new way of registering UI for hooks. Even there is an example in the Chronos group glTF Blender IO in upstream repo in GitHub. And the bump version to 4.4.42. Just the version of the add-on. I thought it was like some kind of glTF. glTF exporter though has more changes. 1. Add fallback interpolation option. So when you don't select any interpolation option, it will fall back to linear interpolation. So you can choose, and if you don't set anything, it will fall back to linear. Tweak for action filter in collection export. Miss background check in previous commit. And for the pre and post export. Oh, that's nice. You can actually have. That's super cool. So glTF, well, game developers, Godot people, if you're watching this, the glTF exporter now has pre and post export hooks, which means you can hook in some Python before and after exporting glTF. Neat. Create output directory if it doesn't exist. Avoid crashes, always good, and fix another crash. In macOS, there are two changes. One is a fix, and one is a window title improvement. Small thing, but basically the unsaved in brackets, it doesn't follow the human interface guidelines by Apple regarding this. In Apple website, they say you should use untitled. So now Blender uses untitled. So a very small thing, but it's good to keep, and also the extension, just to keep things tidy in the platform. However, there is another one that is super interesting, super nice. Quick look support. So on macOS, you can press tab to open the spacebar to have a quick look at certain file types. Right now, the Finder, macOS, will show Blender thumbnails in Finder. So that's cool. There was a pull request for this. I remember seeing a preview, but anyway, trust me, it was there. It is there. And then a make thing. However, can I show you a little spoiler of a change that is actually coming for next week? Well, this is Blender. You may recognize Blender here, right? And this is the preferences, and this is my theme. Can you tell anything from this window already? Yes, no? Okay, let me change the theme to light. Can you tell anything? Let's go to another more colorful one, like the graph box light. Can you tell anything over here? Yes, the header, the window decoration follows the color of Blender. This is a reason to celebrate heavily. Okay, yes. So let's see in action. I say I like Blender, great, but the header is too black, too dark. Let's go to let's say the top bar, and let's change the header to be something else. Color, for example, look at that. How unreadable the title. Oh no, okay, now the text became more readable. Actually, it has some heuristics there to get the because it wasn't selected. Okay, so it gets the color there. That is super. I know it's an eye candy thing, but it's so cool because that means the themes now they actually match everything. So the Nordic gold, this is so cool. It works even with windows that you pop out, and now this match. And as of today, like now, this moment, this is only available on Mac OS, but it was committed just now, so you won't see it, and you will see it in tonight's build, so tomorrow. Depends on where in the globe you are. There is a patch that is it's been it's pushed for Windows. Let's see, window decoration on Windows 11, not on Windows 10 unfortunately, but Windows 11 it will be possible as well. So it's not gonna be a macOS only feature. It's also possible on Windows 11, given to the API stuff. Yes, on Linux, I don't think they will work out of the box. I wonder if anybody that is more savvy with Wayland maybe find a way. I'm not sure, but at least macOS and Windows will be covered by this change. So it's a big part of the population. So cool, super nice. This is from starting next week, by the way. Where was I? Oh, in here. I was actually looking at the changes, and I haven't covered yet. We're already past the hour, way past the hour, but let's see the UI changes. I'll try to be quick on this. 1. Use icons for UV Stitch status bar. You will see a lot of changes in the status bar, which I'm pretty happy to see because it means the status bar is getting some more status. Because so far it's a mixed. Sometimes the indicators are on the header, sometimes are in the status bar, and with this release you will find that Blender tries to add more usability to the status bar, but also like not only just making it cleaner, unifying it, but more compact, but also showing things that were not visible before. We'll show you this in a bit. So this is how it used to be, for example, and this is how it is now. So you see the toggles, the black and white, they change color if a boolean is on or off, instead of saying off all caps, on all caps. Now it just shows a color. Nice. And things like that. This is thanks to Redem Sir, thank you. But you will find this everywhere. Let's see, add icons to batch rename data type menu. This one I mentioned last week already, but it's just basically adding icons for this menu. This is inspired by the work by B4 artists. Expand brush tool fall off curve. Oh, this is nice. This is by Nika. Basically, the same way the proportional edit options are expanded, this has been applied to other drop downs. So now it takes 1 click less to access some settings. Thanks. 1 click less. The masking property has been renamed. It was actually wrong. It was called restrict view. That I'm talking about masking property. So if we look at it, the masking of the mask layer, it was called restrict view. So there's nothing to do with it. It's inverting. So now it's actually called invert. Status bar, more status bar, message clip, add icons to the status bar for placing a marker, for the pose asset, for the grease pencil annotate tool, for improvements, the status bar, if we're gonna find a lot of them. Display improvements for regions, for example. So when you are hovering a region, it will tell you like you can split this region, you can whatever you can perform there. Grease pencil fill, this one also had quite some changes. Instead of just text, now it has this very nice layout, and it shows you the information better. So the mode will show you the value. Collision also, instead of showing on off, it's overall much better. So key blending, this one is also cool. This is for the indicator for the blending the slider. All those tools in the graph editor, in the action editor that use this blending, this slider, well, they are now displayed like this. The name of the operation is now shown on the left instead of being shown in the... There's no image about how it used to be, but basically it used to show it in the... Yeah, there's no screenshot, but it used to show it in the status bar or in the header even, and now it shows it properly here. So it's super nice to have it at a glance. You get the value and you get the type also. This is showing the type of operation that you are performing. Is keyframes in the mode curve bend. Small quality of life improvement. Pose in betweening is using the same thing, similar to how it used to be. Now there are these, sometimes you get like a wall of options, G, R, S, B, and C for whatever you are scaling. Bone visibility, axis only, instead of showing each axis split. Now it's a lot more compact, so hopefully we can fit more items in the status bar. Walk navigation and fly navigation. This one, it was Saturday night and I was, like everyone does, using Blender. And then I noticed how what of a mess it was, the status bar for the fly mode. I don't know if you remember, but it's a mess. And all the directions were, it was taking this amount of space. I couldn't fit it on the screen, and now I can, because these operations like WASD for moving, I think people are familiar with those. It's like grouping XYZ. People know that they're access. WASD is more or less common for navigation, for walk navigation. And this is more compact, but also not just that. It now shows you the acceleration and for the walk navigation, it now shows you the jump height, which before you would have to adjust, jump, see how it goes. Okay, no, less, and then go with dot and comma, jump. Okay, no, I want less. Then you adjust the jump height. Now it's let's see it in action. Come on, I'm already taking over almost 2 hours of live stream. What does it's just a slight more time. Let's see. So let's move this out of my face. Shift. I just can't fill it in yet. Let's see. All right, there. So acceleration. Now I can tap and change the value in the status bar. So good. The jump height, it doesn't fit at this resolution. So let's go back. Is it common that Blender does this change of UI like on the fly? Is it common in other software? Okay, so dot and comma allow you to tweak the jump height. Although now that I think of it, it's missing a unit. What is that? 10 what? Meters? Feet? Tablespoons? What is my jump height? And what else? No, that's it. I think there is a bit too much space after the, I don't know, it's okay. Axis correction, and then at the end there is 4.4, but that's the Blender version. Could be smaller. Okay, next. Status bar, confirm, yeah. Some items, sometimes the first confirm and then cancel was mixed up, so another quality of life to have all consistent. And let's go back to the what it's not a status bar. Fix a crash. Use Gizmo theme colors for knife tool overlay. Small thing, but for some reason the knife tool was using the same colors as the face angle measurement indicators, like the measure overlays. Really unrelated to knife. So now it's actually using a theme setting that is referred to gizmos, which makes sense. Nice one, Nika. Avoid double scaling of the preview images and improve filtering. That's nice. By Julian Isol. So this is old and this is new. Old. Okay. Still fuzzy, but okay, this is an extreme. Nice, awesome. Thank you, Julian. I missed this one. Allow drawing icons as drag previews used for dragging assets. Is it a preview? No, what is it? Instead of requiring an image buffer to draw a bigger preview image, allow passing an icon ID and draw that as a preview. Ah, nice. That's for you. For when you drag an asset, you can use the icon as a preview instead of the actual preview, in case you don't have a preview. Otherwise, you would have an empty preview. Cool. Nice one. There's been a bunch of changes related to previews. Fix incorrect name for shape key property. Ah, yeah, this is another oversight that Nika found, that there was a property which basically allows you to solo or like isolate the shape key, and it was called lock shape key for some reason. Well, the property was called lock, and in the UI it was called pinned when you would pin it, and the icon was pinned. So now it's called solo, like soloed. Then the actual property is called solo active shape key, and the icon is called solo. Icon solo, which is a star icon, which one day maybe we can replace with something else, but at least it's the same icon that is used for soloing a bone collection or other things that can be soloed. Another small one, quality of life, by Gilberto Rodriguez. Flipping it's actually it was mentioned in right click select, and it's a small thing, but I think it would help. Basically, the world icon for the world settings had kind of a similar layout, because I don't know, I guess it was representing the Western hemisphere, so it's North America and South America connected, although we should try to be some less centric. But yeah, if you place Europe and Africa there, it's also hard to tell, or Asia and Oceania, it's also hard to tell. So yeah, it went with this. And the thing is, the kind of a similar shape, it's used by the material preview. So now that has been inverted, and if you look at it at a distance, it should kind of help to see, to tell them apart, which one is which one. Small quality of life, but you can see them here in action. These, it's too similar. This is slightly less. Small things. Thank you, Gilberto. Don't require invalid previous images from disk. Isn't that nice? Fixes an issue. It could even crash. Yeah, don't ask for broken previews. Reduce light theme icon border opacity. Small thing. Show error if drag and drop of images fail. Yay, thank you, Habib, for this improvement. Basically, when you drag and drop a image that doesn't work, it would actually tell you. How cool is that? Thank you, Blender, for telling me all my errors. Make color space tooltips more useful for non-English languages. Yes, this is another collection of a bunch of tooltips that were like RGB. Use RGB color processing. Yeah, but what does it mean? What is RGB? I know, we all know. Most people know. But we have space, we have room for these full colors, red, green, and blue. HSV, HSL, and YUV, YCC, and all those crazy combinations. But now they actually expanded, which makes it better for translations, because then in the UI, we always use RGB. Even in Spanish, it would be RVA, but we don't use that. You use RGB. In any language, you use RGB. So it's good to have, for translations, to have the full text. So super nice. Thank you, Bartosz Kosoriek. Node editor, color drag and drop support. Another usability improvement. Look at it in action, because this great person made a video. You can drag and drop a color and it will make a click. Oh, well, this is more clear. So you basically drag, drop color. It makes an RGB node if you drag and drop it. And I'm not a big fan of GIFs because I cannot stop this video and go back to the beginning. But basically, you can drag and drop from the UI into the node editor. It will make an RGB node, and then you can drag between a color and another color socket. So you bring this here, drag, drop. Great. Ah, here there was a video. And yeah, actually this is better. This contains the whole thing. Dragging a color. Oh, look at that. Showing off. It's actually showing how drag and drop works on every node editor. Not the texture node editor though. But, oh, maybe the texture node doesn't even have a color node. But super nice. One of those hidden Blender features that now you know, and now you can actually tell all your Blender friends. Transform feedback for invalid states. Remember the Blender Guru Andrew Price presentation at Blender at the Blender conference last year. Well, one of the comments was how little feedback Blender gives you sometimes, many times. Well, this is not directly tackling that, but it kind of helps you in a way. So when you are transforming I think I made a video even for this somewhere here to show it in action. Let's see. yeah, basically something like that over here. So when you are transforming an item, it's all good, all fine. But when you have location, suddenly rotation and scale doesn't make any sense. So now Blender will tell you down here, once this goes away, you will see it in status bar. Now Blender tells you like, hey, the transform is set to only affect location, so you're not seeing anything. Not just that, but I don't know if you noticed, the cursor becomes a forbidden sign, like you cannot do this operation. So now you have two things that can let you know why this is that's not happening. Isn't that amazing? And this is one of the of the mentions. Another mention was the object scale warning, which tells you when the object has a non-uniform scale, like 2 to 6, and then it tells you in the status bar. And also when it has a negative scale, when the scale is negative, it will tell you that it has a negative scale. So keep an eye on the status bar because it's now more useful. Some users mentioned that it's not very visible, that we should have color and other things. I agree with you. However, Blender 4.4 goes beta tomorrow, and adding color to the text there is a lot trickier than you would think, because you also want the theme setting for it, right? So baby steps. First this goes in 4.4, and then for 4.5 we can look into making this more prominent, but at least now you know. Now you know. I don't know if you know that guy from social media, but now you know that there is this in the status bar to keep an eye out for. Status bar display, we already talked about that. Fix levels consistency between subdiv and multi-res modifiers. What is this? Oh, it's a Blender manual. Subdivision modifier uses levels and the multi-resolution use level. This difference is changed to levels for both, which aligns with similar UI terminology. I never knew. It's just the UI. Okay, awesome. Nice. Thanks for that one, Aaron. Rewrite the asset shelf preview loading. All right. And with that rewrite come some features. When loading these previews, Blender will now show you a little. So this is before and this is after. So see how there is on the one that I'm showing here, there is a wall of nothing. And now there is a wall of icons, preview icons. So you know where is more content, because in here, like, you don't know where this stops. But now you know that it's only until this row. And the next patch is actually related to that. Now it shows a preview in the background. That was a suggestion I did. And now it looks like this. The preview also shows a content around, like a subtle background, so you can tell where is the preview going to be. And you can also tell the aspect ratio of it, because if it doesn't fit a square, then it's not square, you know, small things. And also it doesn't look like a wall of icons floating. And finally, UI shows successful export notifications for OBJ, PLY, and STL. A little hint that things have gone right thanks to Gilberto Rodriguez. Super nice. That is it. That was everything. Gee, 2 hours. I hope it wasn't... Well, I actually went through all of it. I managed to cover everything that I wanted to cover. I managed to cover all the features that I wanted to show. There are 7 questions apparently here in the website. So let's go through them. And then let's see the splash screen. So, hey, Pablo, remember me? Yes, of course, Navnab. Glad to see BlenderToday crew back around. I'm sorry, I couldn't make it to your first stream. I promise I watched it twice. With the one time was enough. I've been working on my first actual functional changes in Blender. The Cycles kernel is weak, a challenge for a new developer. Gee, you started with an easy one, the Cycles kernel. I'm trying to fix the corrected normals and maybe do some parallax occlusion mapping. Normal maps, Hannah. I have a very troubled relationship with cycles. We know that they're fake shading. Getting them looking as expected should be paramount over technically correct. I am going to need the render test. Any tips for someone just getting started diving into the code? Also, how is the texture baking and updated clip modules coming along? Not much as far as I know. How is it? Well, my tip for someone getting started into the code is that getting something that is you feel comfortable with. Developers have marked some of the issues as good first issues. So if you filter by, can I filter by label here? Yes, and can go to Blender issues, no, Blender issues, and then label, and then good first issue. And here are some things that developers have marked as like, hey, this is something that you could, if you're trying to get into Blender development, these are a few things that you could look into. And you can also filter by project. You can say, okay, good first issue and render module, right? So you can do render module. There's two things here. But maybe instead of render module, I can do render pipeline module. I think you need to remove one of them. Yeah. But yeah, my advice would be to look into something that you feel comfortable with, because it can be, yeah, just demotivating if you start with something too complex. But also, before starting to work on this, drop by the module, the module chat channel, which you can find on every module page and in the module page, and then you should find the chat channel here, because this is the old one. Okay, go to chat.blender.org and you will find the render cycles module. Ask ahead of time before starting to work on something if it's even worth the trouble, because maybe they have plans on refactoring things, and it's better to know in advance before spending time. Is it bad to double post? Probably. My issue here is still active because it turns out it's intended, more or less. The issue is that nodes like color ramp and splines in the backend, as nice as they are, they don't make geometrically smooth curves and have a resolution limit. Hey, still open. If it's not closed, then it's not closed. Then let's see. Nos. Hey Pablo, I was wondering if there is any chance of this issue getting resolved at some point. And it's a right-click select. Transform option, affect only, transform by values. While using transform option, selecting origin, I can easily move an origin by exiting G, but if I adjust the values in the object properties, it seems not to affect the origins. I'm not sure why this change is almost seems like a bug. Have you actually reported this as a bug? But yeah, I agree. It should be. It should work that way. I raised the issues years ago on the bug report, and I got close. It was deemed more of a feature request. Okay, sorry, you already reported it, and it was a bug fix 4 years ago. It was marked as a bug as a feature request, basically. And they sent you to right-click select, which you did. But I disagree. I think it's more. It's just a fix, because it's, yeah, it should work. Probably not easy though. Maybe I'm gonna leave this open. Maybe we can make a post that, or like a to-do task to have that implemented, and at least there is a task. And maybe I can ask developers if that is a good first issue task, and then mark it, and then maybe someone can pick it up. Slowkid says, Hola Pablo, good to see you back. Thanks, good to see you too. Some months ago, Blender did its first official survey. I don't know if you're able to share, but I was curious to know if the survey gave interesting insights about Blender and its current state. And it's already implemented in some way Blender development objectives in the near future. It didn't affect development objective yet, because the results of the survey have not been processed yet. Thanks for the reminder though. I will ask Francesco what is the status of that. Everybody's coming back from the holidays, and also some people had to leave for a few weeks and then come back. Now, as of this week, things are back to normal at the office, so I will bring this back up to maybe prioritize this somehow, because it would be nice to share the results of the survey before the new survey. It's time for a new survey. And Sansul says, hey Pablo, since the previous stream was the first stream of the year after a long break, I had no question, but this time I'm going to ask a question, and that idea asked in the last stream with Ton and Francesco. Not really a feature request, but since the Blender Studio influences the development of Blender, not as much as you would think. Will Blender Studio work on more photoreal live action VFX open movies? No, I don't think so. They are really expensive and a lot of work. If you don't trust me, look up the Blender Tears of Steel making of it. You can throw it in the canal, it's called, I think. Throw it in the canal. Yes, there you go. Here. If you look at the amount of work that goes into, if you want to see a young young everyone basically, young Ian Hubert, but yeah, like getting a crew recording outside. Oh, young Francesco, young Andy, young everyone. When Francesco was doing animation and pipeline and stuff, and now he's COO of Blender. It's crazy. Anyway, I don't think it's gonna happen anytime soon, because it takes so much of everything. Anyways, considering there has been a massive surge of NPR stuff from Blender Studio and the 3D community on the internet, where the last live action movie was from 2012, and Charge 2022 was also another great one, but it wasn't like one photo reel. No, it was Eevee. It was also hard. Only if then we might be gradually able to get improved tools for photoreal VFX workflows in the studios, and solo artists are working on big budget projects to be able to better work with photoreal complex high poly characters with improved shape keys, facial mocap, native mocap, heavy VDVs. And yeah, no, I don't think the Blender Studio will be involved in such a project anytime soon, because of what I just mentioned, basically how complex it is. However, that doesn't mean that improved shape keys, this is in the radar. No mocap as far as I know, but deep compositing, that's something that people are requesting. Yes. Simulations always in the roadmap. Lots of polygon, that's also always in like, who doesn't like more polygons? VDVs, again, back to physics with geometry nodes, with solvers, with that topic is also still open. But yeah, not coming from Blender Studio per se, but that doesn't mean it's not gonna get a attention, because Blender Studio is not the only thing driving Blender development. Yeah. Let's see. No, actually, that was it. That was all. That was the last question. So I hope I covered those questions as you were expecting. So how many people are here? 225 people are gonna present the new splash of Blender 4.4. So things have changed at Blender. You know, Blender has become more mature, and if you look at the current list of splash screens, if you go to the download releases page, if you go download releases, you see, you know, these are all the splash screens, which are pretty neat, I think. Architecture, visualization, Grace Pencil, NPR, Grace Pencil 3, Cozy, and all kinds of things, right? So that just became just too easy. So now we're gonna have new requisites. You know, we have to raise the bar for splash screens. So from now on, at least for one release, we're gonna accept splash screens that involve getting at least 2 Oscar nominations, at least, and maybe 1 Golden Globe. It has to cover those requisites. If it involves cute animals, even better, I would say. If it was rendered in real time in Eevee, even better. If it was fast to render, I think that also will qualify. So those are the requisites. So let's see if I can find a splash screen that meets those requirements, like 2 Oscars nominations. Let's see. Oops, oh, look at that. I just found something. And all right, stop the joke. Behold, the splash screen of Blender 4.4. It's Flow. So I don't know if you're aware, but there is a blog post talking about this project. Flow was made in Blender, and if you haven't seen Flow, you should run to see it. It's even Flow Pathé Netherlands. It's in at least here in the Netherlands. It's already playing on the cinema, and it's in many cinemas in Amsterdam. If you're in Amsterdam here right now watching, you can go all these places to watch it. Flow is being made completely in Blender, so much so that not even compositing was done. Like, it's in the viewport. That's insane. So the director, Gaines Silvalodis, has been sharing, I don't know if you follow them on or follow him on the socials, because he's been sharing so much content from Flow, and some of it is very well. This is super nice. Congratulations, Gaines, on having your own statue in Riga. So, but also it's sharing a lot of these great making offs of the process. It was entirely made and rendered using Eevee. This Blender 3.6, I believe, so it's Eevee Legacy, it's not Eevee Next, which is even better, and it's amazing. And the bloom, that's another one. Another thing to keep in mind, that this was using the old bloom live, no compositing, all in the viewport. Of course, you have to have some special sorcery from incredible minds or wizards, really, such as Martin Supetis. He is just a wizard with all the water effects that were taking place in in there, but it's insane. And Gaines is so talented. Did you know he also made the soundtrack as well? He collaborated in pretty much every aspect of the movie. Some of the shots ended up rendering at home. An Oscar nominated film made in Blender, rendered at home. Isn't that insane? Yeah. So this is amazing. And also I love thanks again, because it's giving Blender a lot of visibility as well. I mean, the film is amazing. We're so lucky that such amazing films are done with Blender, but also that someone is so passionate about the fact that it's made in Blender, so much so that it shares like how how easier it is to see everything in real time in the viewport. So such as playing with reflections, because you see here it's like, okay, this could be any software, but then replies, oh, a reflection plane was used to create this reflection in Eevee. That's so cool. And then another one mentioning the fan interview that was done there. So I'm going to share this interview so you can go have a look on it's on blender.org. It's already for a while, and you can see the trailer, and this is just so cool. So if you haven't seen it yet, please go watch Flow, and let's make some noise, because it could well be one of the first of the anime, not the first thing, but one of the first Blender made film, probably the first fully made film to get an Oscar. So it would be insane. So yeah, it's crazy. So cool. Anyway, so be ready, because your Blender soon will look like this. You have a kitten. Also, thanks to Gins for making an 8K render. So you can use it everywhere and use it to promote the release, which is going to be an amazing release. And you know, the movie, no spoilers, but the movie talks about teamwork, and 4.4 is teamwork from the community, from all the developers, actually making things, you know, working for together, making Blender more stable and easier to recommend and to code as well, all the cleanups and refactors that were taking place. So 4.4 to me is like the perfect place to for such a release for Flow. That being said, I think it's time to wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed this live stream, this get together moment. Here, Sansuls is saying that RRR also, that movie also got an Oscar, but not for VFX, but the VFX were made with Blender. So this one probably would be the one, the perfect. Amazing. All right. I hope you had fun. I did. So what do you say we get together again, maybe in a couple of weeks on the 18th of February? I would see you again so we can chat again about what's new in Blender as of today. This next time actually is gonna be, wow, 2 weeks past the alpha of 4.5. 4.5 is the next LTS release. Just keep in mind, before 5.0. Not bad. The 4.4 release is gonna go beta tomorrow, but that doesn't mean you should just go ahead and start using 4.5. Please stick with 4.4. It's gonna be a fantastic release in terms of stability, and keep, you know, a one to get used to and keep it in for the long run. And of course 4.5 contains all the fixes of 4.4, so it will also be it. But please report issues. Let's not have a 4.4.1. Let's have it as good as possible in 4.4. And if you need any help, always drop by the chat if you need to help with the reporting issues. Other than that, I think I'm gonna wrap it up. See you next time, couple of weeks, with more Blender today. I hope you watch your ear holes for that drop. See you next time.